Hello, Frog fans. Welcome back to Postgame Beers podcast. We are a short 22 days away from Frog Bowl USA's first game of the season. I'm your host, Kyle Malloy, joined by my co-host, Jacob Sailors, along with our producer, Crazy Ray Cartwright. We've got our Sultan of Stat, Martin Guerrero, and featuring, as always, the uninformed horse, Garrett Evans. Jacob, will you be in attendance on Labor Day for the debut of one Tar Heel head coach, Bill Belichick?
Jeez, dude, you're like jumping a whole season. I was like, where's he going with this question? And then I had to like make my brain catch up. He's talking about football. Dude, I'm so focused on baseball. But yeah, as of now, I do plan on being there.
Because you've got some ties, right? It's kind of your second team. Yeah.
Yeah. So I lived in Charlotte for a year, and really, I thought about staying there, not moving back to Fort Worth because I loved it so much. So, yeah, it's a good excuse to go back and visit the great state of North Carolina.
Obviously, it doesn't really have anything to do with the Frogs, but the fact that they moved it to Monday night, primetime matchup, kind of fun. Will be the only game on that night, so that's pretty cool. But anyway, I know I'm jumping ahead. We've got a lot of baseball things to talk about. Gentlemen, Ray, Garrett, Martin, how we doing?
Fan-freaking-tastic, MK. We're talking about baseball.
Ray, I've got a question for you.
Shoot.
How do you prepare differently for a podcast compared to maybe season 1 or 2?
I don't know, man. It feels like I'm still doing the exact same thing where I'm scrambling 10 minutes before the podcast.
Yeah, MK, you just asked Ray a preparation question. He hadn't even studied his opponent that he's supposed
wasn't
to
quite aware of
tonight.
which team was his team until about 15 minutes ago.
He was like, man, I haven't even looked into Houston. And I'm like, good. That's not even the team you're supposed to be doing tonight.
You should have asked me.
This is an actual text.
Yeah, Martin changed up a lot from the first season.
Yeah, let Martin answer the question.
I've got typed out notes. Look at that.
Martin.
2 pages.
Look at
2
you.
pages.
See, Martin's on it.
We're talking 2 pages.
This is actual text thread from the LDC about 2 hours ago. Ray was unaware of what's going on, but hey, he's here, and I feel confident that by the time he's up, he's going to give us a full breakdown of Texas Tech.
Yeah, I think he's going like first. So
I'm going full 34. We're going to break down each player, where they came from, who their girlfriend is, what's their girlfriend's Instagram handle, all of it.
I mean, that actually might be content that the people want, but I think we should focus on
when we played club ball, our starting catcher put together a scouting report of the A&M Corps Cadets team, and he did all that. He made a profile for every player in the starting lineup and found all their girlfriends and everything so that they could heckle them from the dugout.
Beautiful work.
Kind of a mix of creepy and also respect. Just a lot of respect.
Well, and then there's me, who I found that they charted all their at bats online. So I went in there and made spray charts for all the hitters. So I'm over here calling shifts on the infield. So that was my job while the rest of the guys were doing bits.
Hey, bits are fun.
Hey, before we get into breakdown of because what we're doing tonight, for those who don't know, is we're continuing on previewing our opponents that are on the TCU schedule. But before we do that, Martin sent a grocery list of topics to talk about. And I just want to turn it over to him and see which one is interesting to him tonight. And maybe he can teach us something about college baseball.
So the one that I really find interesting right now is the Diego Pavila thing. Do you guys know anything about it?
Sure.
This is the junior college rule.
That's the quarterback that whooped Alabama's ass.
Oh, yeah. That's who that kid is. The Andy kid.
Yeah. Piss boy. I think he peed on the New Mexico train. What was it? The practice field? Yeah.
Not a funny story, but I actually took a flight with him going to Santa Fe in November. It was it was his off week, and so I guess he maybe still has family back in Santa Fe or something. But very interesting outfit. It looked straight out of a Western. He had black jeans, like a black country shirt, a cowboy hat. I mean, very Santa Fe. It was, we kind of had to double take to make sure it was still him. But yeah,
MK just rubs elbows with all the stars, doesn't he?
I didn't meet him. I just said I was on the same flight.
See that he should sue the NCAA.
What was that, Ray? I missed that.
So
You cut out.
One that planted the seed that he should sue the NCAA.
Just having a drink in the Delta Lounge and decided to go ahead and
So Martin, everywhere you brought him up. He's a transfer from New Mexico State to Vanderbilt. Took down Alabama. And but there's obviously more here. So where were you going?
So I guess during COVID he was at a JUCO or something, and he played, I think, 2 years at New Mexico State, and then he played 1 year at Vandy, and he sued the NCAA, like saying he should get 4 years to play Division I football. And the NCAA just kind of caved like they do in all their lawsuits these days. And they're basically saying like JUCO time does not count against you anymore.
So it's so insane. We're just making it as we go these days.
This has a massive effect on baseball, right?
Yeah.
I would say so. I mean, just off the top of your head, name off the guys who started off in JUCO and finished their 2 or 3 years at TCU, and they could have come back for a year or two more.
Cole Fontenelle.
I mean, he got drafted. He could have come back, but like what's his name? Cody Jones. Is that his name?
That's a player.
Kojo?
That's a guy. Yeah, Kojo.
The original Kojo.
We've had a ton of guys from JUCO, right? I mean, it's a
yeah.
So I guess so. Not only do they get more years now with NIL and actually getting paid, I mean, you're going to have some guys in college for a full 7 years, right? I mean, that's what they call a doctor. It's going to
be. So, I was looking into it. So you can have a guy, let's say he's recruited by BYU, right? He goes to BYU. He goes on a mission for 2 years, like BYU does. And he redshirts his first year at BYU. So he spent 3 years at BYU already. He's like 21 years old, hasn't played any baseball, transfers to a JUCO. He can play there 2 years. And then, so he's going to be 23 and he's got 4 years to play at a D1 school.
A lot more tougher conversations with those exit interviews, because these coaches are going to be like, you're either going to play or you're not, but they could stick around as long as they want, or if they're good and they don't want to go, pro early. I think it's going to be interesting.
Couldn't you, in theory, start having these local JUCOs be like minor league teams for your program? Be like, hey, go to Weatherford for a couple of years and then come to TCU.
Also, how much is that going to change how college baseball is played and how they recruit? Because we saw it for a little while because of COVID, right? You had those guys that got an extra year, and you saw everybody basically had an extra year.
Yeah.
And you saw teams start recruiting guys who are more experienced over guys like who they can develop. And then now with the transfer portal and with NIL, they're really not – the high school recruit is being way undervalued now because there's these older guys that can just transfer and play right away.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of happening across all of the sports, right?
Yeah, dude. And I think that, I mean, surely this is the type of thing that gets walked back. I mean, like everything, all these other rash decisions the NCAA seems to be making in recent years. I mean, I get it's probably good for an on-the-field product perspective down the line, but it can't be good for the health of the sport as a whole, right? If these kids from high school, I mean, how are they going to get developed? It just doesn't seem like it's good for the game at all. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think it's. I mean, you could see. I mean, that's why you see G5 schools that are so good. You're going to see that talent pushed down they go to these G5 programs, develop for a couple of years, and then go land their massive 6-figure NIL contract from an SEC school.
And I guess the only way you're going to find out is if you just roll the dice and let it play out for a little while, kind of like how NIL's been, and then kind of regulate and figure it out from there, I guess, theoretically. But
Martin,
it's probably going to look kind of weird for a little while.
Martin, I've got a question. Was this a decision that was made by the NCAA, or it's a loophole because they're trying not to get sued from players in JUCO wanting to keep their full status when they go to a bigger college?
So I think it originated as Pavia trying to make a loophole, and because the NCAA is so scared to be sued by anybody, they just caved right away, and now they're making it because you've just set the precedent, right? Now anybody can sue the NCAA and get an extra year. So now they're just gonna go across the board, any sport, anybody who played at JUCO, it's not gonna count. They're talking about giving you 5 years to play across the board, no matter where you came from.
I think what's interesting to me is, and can you guys hear me? New microphone, all that. Okay. I think what's interesting to me is I've always said, like, college athletes, especially at the level that we're concerned with, high level Division I, these are kids who are like freaks in nature. They develop really early and they're kind of not at their peak, but close enough, more so than your average high school player, right? So I think, to me, this gives kids another year of just pure growth to be able to compete at a higher level, which I think could enrich the talent pool. But then I kind of wonder too, if that just is going to push more kids into the draft earlier.
I think it's exactly what it would do, right? I mean, probably for the high level that you're talking about. I mean, you're older, bigger, stronger, faster, and you haven't been at that D1 program for as long, and you're probably in a position physically where you're ready to go to the next level.
I don't know. I think I'd push back a little bit on that because you see the way MLB's treating the draft. They've shortened it by 20 rounds since COVID. I mean, unless you're one of the top high school talents, that opportunity is just not there.
So this is just going to increase the talent pool, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, good news for Mercer. Schools like that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think it's a double-edged sword for those lower level programs because they're going to get their guys, they're going to find their gems, and they're going to have a couple good years. Like the Sun Belt, I think every player that was on the all Sun Belt team or whatever is now at another school.
That is a wild stat.
Yep.
Something else to build off of this a little bit. Did y'all see the ruling? I think the NCAA came down with across the board that 30%, you can play up to 30% of your games and still be considered a redshirt.
What was it previously?
None in baseball.
Oh, and baseball was 0. Okay.
Yeah, only football had that 4-game rule.
Yeah.
So that's an active rule now?
I think it starts in August of 25.
Okay.
How much is it you're allowed to play again, right?
30%.
Oh.
So
that's good.
So I went and did the math for baseball. It would be, I think, up to 16 games, 15 or 16 games they could play in. And
so basically everything non-conference.
Basically.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Or you could save some arms for later down the stretch, late in the season.
Yep, good point too.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Nice.
Good nuggets, guys.
Good topic. Hey, before we jump into previews, want to shout out our sponsor, Long Drink. Ray's got one right now, enjoying the 0 sugar citrus, like a lot of our favorite flavors. I feel like your second one's going to be pineapple, Ray. We can.
No, it's not date night.
Okay. All right. Save it for date night. The premium finished cocktail made with gin and natural flavors. Grab a long drink at your nearest liquor store. Okay. Do we want to talk about? I guess we'll save baseball awards for after previews. That way we can kind of end on that.
Okay.
Preseason baseball awards, I guess.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about that.
That's right. There's not a lot to talk about. It's basically one team and then the rankings of the team. So, but let's jump into previews. We've got the first half of the Big 12 season we're going to break down tonight. So we'll start with Arizona State. They're their first Big 12 opponent for the Frogs in mid-March on the 14th. And Martin is on the clock to break down those Sun Devils. Go for it, bud.
Yeah, so while I was doing my research for Arizona State, I was surprised how similar they are to Fresno State, the team that I previewed last week. I know I talked about their coach was the catcher for the team that won the national championship. Willie Bloomquist is the head coach for Arizona State, and he also led the team to a national championship. They lost, but last year they went 32-26, fifth place finish in the last year of what we know as Pac-12 baseball. They went 0-2 in the Pac-12 tournament and did not make the NCAA tournament. They also lost to TCU 11-9 on day 2 of the Globe Life Field Series last year. This will be the Sun Devils' first season in the Big 12. Some key losses from last year's team was outfielder Nick McLean, who hit .342, on base .457, and slugged .663 with 33 extra base hits, 12 home runs, 54 RBIs. He was drafted by the Chicago White Sox in the 3rd round. Catcher Ryan Campos, he hit .369, on base .465, slugged .554 in 3 seasons at Arizona State. So he was a longtime contributor for them. He was drafted in the 4th round by the Cardinals. And then left-handed pitcher Connor Markle. So he put up a 4.68 ERA in 65 in the 3rd innings with 63 strikeouts. Doesn't really jump out off the page at you, but he ate up a lot of innings for this team, and pitching was really a problem for them. I know I talked a little bit about Fresno State, how their offense was good and their pitching kind of struggled. Arizona State is like a more extreme version of Fresno State. They hit better than Fresno State. They slug better than Fresno State, but their pitching is worse. Some guys that they bring back, Brandon Compton is the big one. He hit .355 with a .427 on base and a .661 slugging with 30 extra base hits, 14 home runs, 51 RBI. He's projected to be a 2nd or 3rd round pick in the draft this year. They also got a right fielder who broke out last year, Kian Vu. He hit .413 with a .497 on base and a .793 slugging. He hit 14 home runs and stole 12 bases. He's expected to be a big contributor for them as well. A guy that they're bringing back this year, who some consider to be their best player, is Nuu Contreras, 3rd baseman.
I don't think you pronounced that right.
Yeah, try that again.
If I didn't, just by what I said, you can tell who I'm talking about. So he hit .309 with a .341 on base and .484 slugging. Those were his stats from 2023. He missed he only played 5 games last year because of a back injury. He's back this year. They also got a surprise return in baseman Jacob Tobias. I guess they weren't expecting him to come back for a senior year. He hit .322 on base, .418, and slugged .621 with 32 extra base hits, 18 home runs, and 56 RBI. He came back for a senior year. He's going to be another. That's 4 really, really good hitters.
So I don't mean to interrupt you, but the way you're describing the team so far, it sounds a lot similar to the team that TCU whooped in the regional a couple years ago. Is there anything that stands out different as far as, the lineup scares you a little bit, but you can get to
The
their
regional,
pitching?
or did they play in Arlington or something?
I think you're
Am
thinking of
I mixing them
Arizona.
up with Arizona? I am mixing
You
them up with
are.
Arizona. Okay. All right. Let me rephrase the question.
Yeah.
I know we have to go back a little bit, but we molly-whopped them in Fort Worth back in 2017. I know that was Arizona State, but that's kind of a long time ago. I know.
Any guys still from the 2017 squad coming back?
Any
right.
JUCOs?
That JUCO year?
Yeah.
Any JUCO rule come into effect here.
Okay, my bad
COVID.
question. Bad question. I tried to save it, but
It's
please
Hey,
like
Martin,
continue.
let me pick it up for Jacob. What are their hit by pitch numbers?
Nothing stood out.
so.
So
Without going into the full rankings, they're projected in the top half of the Big 12. Would you agree with that? Based on sounds like 4 or 5 guys that are pretty stellar players.
well, the first half is what now, like 7 teams?
It's 14.
Well,
Yeah. So
I'll tell you,
17,
I've listened to
yeah.
podcasts that have them finishing second or third.
I disagree.
Yeah, I do too.
So the last notable returner is Isaiah Jackson. His numbers are not as good, but he's like an elite defensive outfielder. So their outfield is stacked. I mean, their infield is pretty good. They're replacing a catcher. They got some transfers coming in who will probably fill that. I mean, they're going to hit. I'm not going to come up here and say that they're not. I mean, they're pretty much the same team as last year with more experience, right? The big thing is going to be their pitching. Ben Jacobs, who's their no question ace, he had a 4.75 ERA in 66 in the third innings, but he had 102 strikeouts, almost 2 strikeouts per inning.
wow.
So he's filling up the strike zone
Yeah,
because he's either getting hit or striking you out.
yeah. The big guy, the big question is going to be who can fill those rotation spots after him.
Yeah.
I mean, even the positions where they don't have returners, they got some really big transfers. Kyle Walker, second baseman from Grambling State, he was named the top incoming transfer in the Big 12 by Baseball America. He hit 384 with a 508 on base and slugged 611 with 11 home runs. Walked 34 times compared to only 18 strikeouts. He dominated against lesser competition. The big question is going to be, how does that translate to the Big 12? Being surrounded by all those hitters, I'm sure he's going to get a lot of pitches to hit himself. Another big transfer that they got was Matt King, shortstop from UTSA. He was like the most consistent player for UTSA in the last 3 years. And then in 2024, he had 336 with 394 on base and 464. Pretty much up and down this lineup, they're going to have hitters. Do you guys remember Scott Hairston?
No, sir.
No. I think he played for the Rangers a long time ago, but his son is on the Arizona State team. He was one of their big freshman recruits. It's going to be tough for him to get at bats, but that was pretty interesting, I thought. And then Jack Martinez, right-handed pitcher from Louisiana, transferred in. He was one of the guys that I kind of was hoping that TCU would go after. He had a 4.40 ERA in 45 innings, struck out 50, but opponents only hit 199 against him. So pretty good arm. I think he's going to be expected to be in the rotation. So if he can translate those stats as a reliever into the rotation, I think they might be pretty good. But it's kind of not very deep behind those two arms as far as the rotation goes.
All right. Any last words, interesting things about their schedule, or?
I got where they ranked last year in as far as across the nation. They were 12th in batting average, 14th in hits, 15th in slugging, 6th in doubles. They don't bunt. They only had 8 bunts all year. But their ERA ranked 194th. And their walks per 9, they ranked 223rd in the nation.
So they're just mashing and hoping for shootouts.
Yeah. I mean, again, they're going to hit this year. I don't think there's any question about that. The big question is going to be if they can find some pitchers behind Ben Jacobs.
Thanks, Martin. Questions about Arizona State, fellas? Okay. Awesome. The second Big 12 series. Oh, Martin, do you have something?
Jacob was talking, but I can't hear him.
You got to replug that mic in, buddy. Better learn audio.
Heck.
We got you back.
That's so annoying. Okay, I'll figure that out for next week. But I was just going to make a point. We've covered Arizona and Arizona State now, and they're projected. I think Oklahoma State is kind of the shoe-in favorite to win the conference. But I've heard podcasts rank Arizona and Arizona State either third or second, third and fourth and fifth, second and third, somewhere. I just wonder if, because nobody really knows when you're coming to a new conference, right?
Right.
And I think they're looking at it as OU and Texas are gone. So obviously Arizona and Arizona State are just going to waltz into the Big 12 and do well without OU and Texas there. I just think they're slightly overrated, but.
Yeah, and I think it's harder for you to climb in the standings of the Big 12 just relying solely on offense. I think there's going to be, especially this year with those mountain schools, I think there's going to be a lot more teams that can hit this year who are going to struggle against the teams that are more built on pitching.
Yep. All right. Well, good job, Martin. Who's next?
Well, speaking of teams that just only care about offense, let's talk about those Red Raiders from Lubbock.
Oh, Texas.
Lubbock. It's Lubbock.
From Lubbock. Man,
is Micah Hudson on the team?
Yeah.
Reverse card, right?
A man without a home.
I can't wait for ESPN to do a feature on them as they get ready for the first bowl next year.
Yeah.
But one quick thing about their schedule. So they opened the year in Chapel Hill with North Carolina. Do you think Bill Belichick throws out the first pitch of the very first game of the year?
Ooh, good question.
Man,
it's got to be good odds, right?
Surely.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's going to do something with basketball, you'd think, ahead of time, right? He's already been showing up to those games.
Dude, they'll probably
Absolutely.
have Donald Trump. They'll have Donald Trump throw out the first pitch. He'll be
They
there.
can get out there and then start doing the
Yeah. He's going to rescue all the people in Western North Carolina. And he's going to go to the UNC game and throw out the first pitch.
Will he drop from a like rappel from a helicopter? With an
Tell us about
American
tech.
flag?
He's
Tell
going
us
to
about
come in
tech,
on one of those SpaceX things.
Be delivered by a drone. So when it comes to Texas Tech in the year of our Lord 2025, I'm going to start with the question for y'all. Do y'all think this is a big year for Tim Tadlock?
Doesn't he have a lifetime contract?
I mean, he does.
I guess there's
But
got to
it
be
feels
there's got to
like,
be a buyout of
man.
some sort, right?
All right, here's why I'll say no, because Texas Tech has made like an institutional decision to prioritize basketball and football. So I can't see if they're not going to give him NIL funds to work with. Like you've seen a lot of big names from Texas Tech transfer out. So if you're not going to give him NIL to work with, they're not going to be very cutthroat about him winning or losing.
They need
That's my opinion.
you need the double eagle eye of Sauron to turn its light onto the baseball program.
Dude, they're not diverting funds. Like you've seen guys like Mason Molina transfer to Tech. Their stud catcher, what was his name? I don't know. Transferred to Arkansas. I think they had some other guys transfer out. They're still recruiting well, but when it comes time to get paid, they're going elsewhere.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, they
almost
had
like they
that.
become a feeder program for the SEC.
Yeah.
Right. You had Gavin
Yeah.
Cash transfer to Texas A&M.
Gavin
this past-
Cash. Yeah, that's a huge one. Yeah.
I don't think it's a big year for him, like in Lubbock, because, like you said, they're kind of ignoring baseball. But as far as in the college baseball world, I think it's a big year for him as far as everybody's perception if he's still a good coach or not.
That's a good way to put it, Martin.
Yeah.
He's not going anywhere, but got
Well, it feels like Tech has bought a lot of leeway when it comes to national perception.
Dude,
Maybe it'll end this year if they. Dude, it's gonna be hard for them, in my opinion, to finish in the top half of the Big 12 this year.
Dude, yeah, they were just the preseason poll has them 5th in the conference, one ahead of Arizona State.
That's the coaches poll.
Whoever votes on the Big 12,
For the media,
yeah,
I
I don't
was
know
trying
if
to
it's
figure-
media because they don't do media days. The Big
was trying to
12
figure
does.
Okay,
out.
so
Yeah.
Who does vote on
D1
that?
has them 6th and Arizona State 7th. Okay, D1, we'll get into it. We might cover West Virginia, we might not, but they have West Virginia 4th after they lost everybody and their coach. So I don't know about that, but that's neither here nor there. But D1 has Tech 6th.
Which
as far as I think D1 is closer to being right about Arizona State than the Big 12 preseason poll. And then the other team that I have tonight, I think D1 is closer to being right about Kansas than the Big 12 preseason poll.
So you're buying Kansas, huh?
I'm buying Kansas. More on that
Well,
later.
I'll tell you. So I think what we'll do is once we get through the teams on TCU's schedule, we'll quickly hit on teams we don't play. But that's for next week.
so with the schedule, one thing going in Tech's favor this year is they don't play much like we don't. They don't play Oklahoma State. Kind of feel like that's kind of big.
I guess they
They're trying
didn't.
to contend.
They didn't follow the leaders and legends idea that Jacob had last week. With
They did
you know,
not.
but
they'd be borderline relegation worthy.
Isn't Texas Tech like dominating Oklahoma State like the last 20 games they played or something like that?
Maybe, but I thought
Maybe Tech wishes they were playing Oklahoma State this year.
they blew some games to them last year.
I forgot Tech finished like way below 500 last year. And
They had an abysmal year last year.
Dude, they were awful. I think they were 12-17 in conference.
I think I blocked that
That's
out.
correct.
Jeez Louise. So if they do that again, I think there's a lot of pressure on Tadlock, you know? I mean,
and you look at this.
I think I would think that their floor, similar to TCU, should, or maybe not as high as TCU, but like they are expecting a regional every year, regardless, right?
But yes, typically, but since NIL became, what it is today, it's not the same program.
Super interesting because I your point about only focusing on 2 sports, I think a lot of schools have probably done that to a point, but maybe it's not as public, where it seems,
for sure.
It seems very apparent that that they're just like, we're not going to do anything.
I think TCU is actually more unique in spreading the love around, most sports.
Right.
Obviously, basketball and football are going to get a higher share than the rest of the sports, but dude, they're not ignoring women's basketball, much less baseball.
No. And do you think it makes it worse for Texas Tech whenever they look across to their counterparts, which would be softball, and they see softball drop like almost, I think it was $1 million they spent to get
that is odd
college pitcher.
So question,
college softball pitcher in NCAA, and I think you say her last name is like Canada. She came from Stanford.
do we know if that was like based on like a particular donation? Because can't you?
I think it was one donation.
That's what I mean.
From a really big.
Okay, so that's an outlier.
But still, I mean, the overall perception of it is look at the NIL money that's being spent on this Texas Tech softball roster as opposed to what they're spending on this baseball
Yeah,
roster.
I bet the baseball team isn't making $1 million combined.
No way. There's no way.
Anyway, so
okay.
back to the team.
What are you projecting in terms of finish, or maybe some players to watch out for? It sounds like all of them left.
No, they still got some. They still got some good players. I was going to actually give y'all a list of pick 3 guys, and of these 3 guys, which ones will be playing in an SEC school next year.
I like it.
You got Damian Bravo, who made all Big 12 preseason this year.
Mm-hmm.
Tracer Lopez, who's back at shortstop, and TJ Pompey. Which of those 3, or will all 3 of them be playing in the SEC next year?
Dude, I want Damian Bravo to come to Fort Worth. He's from Fort Worth, or I think Haltom City or something. But I think he was like first in the Big 12 in batting average last year.
Yes, he was.
Yeah,
Dude can rake.
I want that guy.
I mean, but you look at this team, and it's your typical Texas Tech team. Yeah, they lost Gavin Cash and what's his name? Bazel. He's no longer with the program. He got drafted last year. But they're just going to roll out some other dudes that can mash, and it's just going to be, can they pitch? They've got dudes that can run it up, that flash on the radar gun. But, I think that they had a team ERA of close to 6 last year.
Yeah.
They were awful.
So what about Matt Hewer, who's the number 13 2025 Big 12 draft prospect?
He's a big boy. I think he's like 6'5", like 230, something like that. But he's a sophomore.
Is he a right-handed pitcher?
I don't know what he's.
Hold on. Yes, he is.
That's funny. He's the prototypical 6'5", big old country boy who can throw 97, and he's gonna have like a 6 ERA.
Yeah, probably. But he's projectable at the next level. So,
I mean, you just don't know with him. Will they? Can they command the ball?
Damian Bravo is actually the number 12 prospect, Martin. So, I don't know if your wish will come true.
NIL, pay more.
Yeah, it really drops off for them after that, after those 2 guys, as far as 2025 prospects go.
So so what I'm hearing is it's a good time to play at Texas Tech. It's a good year to go
now
there.
their 2026 draft picks are pretty high on the list. Like we talked about TJ Pompey and then Logan Beavis.
Do they have a
that's on your list?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but bad things still happen out in Lubbock.
I know.
Whenever
so they have young talent. So this is kind of this is my hypothesis about them. They have young talent who will then take a bag.
I mean, it's been the business model the last couple of years for Texas Tech. I can't believe. I mean, I guess I can believe because if they're not getting the support, but you used to think of Texas Tech baseball as one of those scary teams on your schedule, and now it's a fun game. It's a fun series, right? They're a rivalry. They're probably our biggest baseball rival.
Yeah, and we have to go to Lubbock, which we would prefer to have them in Fort Worth for sure.
Well, but I was saying if they're going to have a down year, then who cares? Frogs can still take 2 out of 3. They
can still hit. And things they do in Lubbock, they love to mash.
Yeah, they love to hit fly balls that get mixed up in the wind.
Yeah, get caught in that little jet stream they've got out there and carry it into their engineering parking lot, whatever they've got back their baseball fields backed up to.
Well, I will say it's probably the series on the schedule, at least in conference, I'm looking forward to the most without Oklahoma State on the schedule.
Yeah, sans Oklahoma State, yeah. And you don't have Texas this year. And that's why I said sans. Oklahoma State.
Well, I usually
Oklahoma
look forward to both Oklahoma State and Tech over Texas anyway.
100%. Well, Texas was fun just when you beat
Yeah,
them.
but I just like the other two series better.
Okay.
I mean, Tech is fun,
All right.
but they're more fun on because their fans are very Twitter, so that makes it a little more spicy.
They're very online.
They are very.
Shout out to the Gauchos.
Tumbleweed is very online.
So for having done no research, that was pretty good, Ray. Thanks a lot. On Texas Tech.
Hey, MK, no.
He crammed for the
I
exam.
did no research. I said I started 10 minutes before the pod.
Way to
Not bad.
quit, Ray.
Okay, moving on to the University of Houston, projected to
MK, so in conclusion, Texas Tech sucks. I hate that.
yeah, let's go.
Yeah, got him.
We did it. I guess we should just say that after every team now.
Well, we're about to in these next two. I promise you.
Okay. All right, Garrett, take it away because I've heard Houston is stinky. Dude.
So we can
Yeah,
keep
quote
this
Ray
brief.
Cartwright on this one.
Houston last season, they were stinky cheeks, boys. They were very stinky cheeks. They had a Big 12 record last year of a good, strong 7-21. So
Yeah, they got spared 2 games.
it's just
They didn't even finish their schedule.
boys, it's not pretty. Their overall record was 26-28. All right. So with that said, there's still not any good news. Yeah, you really can't. I'm going to try and glass half full this Houston team because there is some fun notes about them. They lost out of their 9 positional starters from last year. They lost 9, and they are going to be returning 1 starting pitcher. So
That could be a good thing.
Yeah, I was going to
start,
say,
boys.
is
Fresh
that necessarily a bad thing?
and that's what we're going to
Yeah,
get into.
get these guys out of here.
That's what we're going to get into. So the story of this team basically comes down to the fact that they've brought in 24 transfers for this year. Essentially a complete rebuild, and you really
Think
just
their coach got much sleep?
dude, it's insane. Trying to read up on this team today, it's kind of ridiculous. So you want to try and preview Houston, but you really have no idea what you're going to get because again, there's not one starter coming back to play this year.
Yeah, they were the oldest team in college baseball last year, right?
Yeah, I believe they were the oldest team in college baseball, and now they're well, I'm not sure the age of all these transfers that have come in, but they don't have very many freshmen. I think I had it somewhere. They brought in this year 6 freshmen, newcomers. Exciting notes for them. Cade, how do you pronounce his last name? Climby, right? Climby? Anyhow, he's the Houston Cougar now. He is number 1 junior college transfer hitter. The number 64 overall college prospect. He's probably going to be holding down the hot corner for them. He crushed at Blinn. I think he was originally an Aggie, and then he was over at Blinn. Crushes the baseball. So, I mean, they're obviously excited about that, but they're losing, right? They're 2 only power hitters they had prior to, and Carey, Arboleda, and Harold Cole. Those 2 guys combined for 30 homers last year.
Oh, he's a grandma.
Do what?
I said he's a grandma.
They gone.
They got
Abuelita?
nobody.
Justin Murray gone. I mean, so you're essentially looking at a team that is going to be patched together almost completely with transfers. But that Cade Climby kid, he's the one they're most excited about with his experience. He'll He looks like he's going to be a 3-hole guy for them. Kenny Jimenez, he is back. He'll still probably be DHing. Be there for their lineup. He had a nice fall. But you just go down the list here. Their projected shortstop is transfer out of Dartmouth, a guy named Tyler Cox. He is I believe a career 380 hitter. That's what he's trying to tell me on these notes. I don't know if I believe that. Again, guys, there's just not much to be excited about for the Cougars. But with all the transfers they're bringing in, like I said, you don't know what you're going to get, but it does seem like it's going to be a lineup. It's going to be built for power. So similar to what Martin was saying, it looks like they're kind of in a position where they're just going to try and run the scores up and pray that the pitcher can hold on. Because they brought back one starting pitcher. They've got a couple of guys that they're excited about who were coming off Tommy John in the past. And what is his name? Antoine, whatever his butt is. Gosh, I had it written down. What's his last name? Gene. Yeah. And but yeah, dude, I don't know. It's not an exciting group of guys to read about and prepare right up for because there's not much there with your Cougars.
Do you think this is, back to kind of the Tim Tadlock question, former TCU great Todd Whitting coaches Houston. Do you think his seat's getting a little warm? I mean, kind of apathetic times down.
I hope
I
not.
wouldn't think so with the way this team is built this year. I mean, they're essentially trying to do a 1-year rebuild. So if it hits, I mean, you're the hero. If it doesn't hit, you can kind of write it off as well. I lost everything I had, and I had to try and build this thing up in one go. But
dude, just from a broader perspective, you're really starting to see a line of demarcation between teams that invest in baseball and teams that don't. And this brings me back to my idea last week is to just separate them into different leagues because, I mean, they bring in a lot of transfers. They're not bringing in guys who are getting paid. They're bringing in guys who couldn't play at their last school.
Yeah.
And they're not even caring about money. They just want to get some reps in, get some playing time.
Yeah, these aren't hired guns.
Exactly right. It looks to me a lot more of a island of misfit toys type situation.
Yeah.
Outside of Cade Climby, that dude seems like he could be legit. But outside of that,
that's the one guy.
That's the one kind of bullet they have in their chamber. None of their pitchers look incredibly frightening. I mean, they're excited about Richie Roman. They're excited about Antoine Jean, but these are guys who are coming off injuries. I don't think there's much to worry about.
I feel like every team has a guy. There are very few schools out there without at least one guy.
So Richie Roman's the number 12 2026 prospect in the Big 12.
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
I'll say they're excited about Richie Roman, but he had a minimal role previously because of freaking Tommy John. And then the old man and Antoine, same deal. Tommy John issues, and he had an ERA damn near 6. So it sucks, man. I feel bad for him. It seems like the program they're really obviously tried really hard to make this season, but I don't think it's
budget.
Jacob, you saying that there's a line of demarcation between these schools that are investing and not investing, right? When you think of Houston baseball in general, does that scream like an exciting program? Like, who do you think's more excited about their team generally, like Texas State or Houston? And how far could you go down? Okay, UTSA, did they care more about their baseball than Houston does?
This is a good idea, Ray. Like, we should rank the top 100 most excited about their team fan
Yeah.
bases.
We could probably
Or at
focus on
least in this-
Texas.
Yeah, I was gonna say at least in Texas. Yeah.
Like you could go. They just need to go right up I-45 to another
All right.
Houston school.
Sam Houston.
But dude,
Yeah.
Sam Houston.
All right, Ray.
More
Next week
excited.
you will unveil your Texas hype rankings.
hey guys, so just a fun little note. Last year, we know they were stinky booty cheeks. They played 11 top 100 RPI teams. This year, having lost the talent they had of what was talented last year, they are now this season playing 15 top 100 RPI teams. Now, a lot of that is just because of the strength of the league, but it doesn't bode well for the Cougar.
So what you're saying, Garrett, is in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Exactly right.
Speaking
Rest
of
in
Texas
peace.
State and Sam Houston, some of the guys that they brought in that I thought were interesting. So you remember Aaron Lugo, the guy who
Yes.
hit that walk-off home run at Shriners while he was blowing the bubble?
He came.
Oh, yeah.
He's at Houston now. Yeah.
Yeah, he's at Houston now. And then Malachi Lott was at Sam Houston, but before he was at Sam Houston, he was at UH. So I don't know if they're counting him as a returner, but he's probably the team captain.
They
So he went
they
Houston,
listed Aaron Lugo
Sam
as their they listed Aaron Lugo, at least D1 did. They listed Aaron Lugo as the top newcomer instead of Climby, which I thought was interesting. Maybe that's just because of his experience at Texas State, but
He's a good player.
yeah, I mean, so like I said, I think they're gonna have a couple of weapons, but I don't like the idea of having not one single starter returning and then trying to have some type of continuity amongst that locker room going into a new. I don't know. What do I know, right? But it doesn't.
Would you guys be interested in a Richie Roman note?
Yeah, to hear it,
He pitched in Fort Worth last year. You want to hear his stat line?
please.
All right. 0.0 innings pitched. 5 hits, 6 earned runs, a walk, 2 wild pitches, and an abortion.
Oh my God! I didn't think he would actually say it.
We're real high on Richie Roman, is what you're saying. We're
Is he the one
super-
guy we poured off of last year?
Oh,
Dude,
How do you score an earned run if you don't make a single out?
He gave up. Well,
How do you do that
he
last
gave up
part, Jacob?
5 hits. He gave
No,
up 5 hits,
I-
dude.
No, I'm thinking about understanding the math.
you know, he's
right?
supposed to be Richie Roman is supposed to be their Friday night guy. Like he's supposed
Well,
to
there's
be.
no. Yeah, no. I mean, that's terrible. Then, like,
He's
Doesn't the
projected.
name
this-
Richie
projected
Roman sound
Friday
like
night
a
guy.
90s Saturday Night Live character?
Sounds like a
Richie Roman?
WWE champion.
There you go.
yeah.
What's-
Hey,
what's he
also, Houston's schedule, looking at it, they avoid Oklahoma State too. Is Oklahoma State going to play
Ooh.
a single Big 12 team?
Yeah.
this
Who does
year?
Oklahoma State play?
We've done 3 previews so far, and I don't see Oklahoma State on this schedule. I see an OSU they play in Round Rock, and that would be Oregon State, but no Oklahoma State. No wonder they were picked to finish first. They
Hey,
played
fun fact,
nobody.
Yeah. Right.
you guys know CC Sabathia's kid plays for Houston? I forgot that little factoid.
Hey, maybe we can hang out with him.
Didn't he
Yeah.
just get elected to the Hall of Fame or something?
His name is Carson Sabathia III.
Is he a big old boy too, like Cece?
Let me look.
Probably.
He's an infielder. Let me see if I can pull
Oh,
up his. I would love to know. Where are you at, Carson Sabathia III?
He's probably a first baseman.
He's the he is. He doesn't have his weight, but it says he's 6'4".
Oh,
He looks like a pretty large individual in this picture.
large it. All right. Okay. I think we got the picture right, Houston.
Yeah.
Congrats on the newcomer of the year award. And moving on to, you know what? Maybe a team that we can have some higher expectations for this year. BYU. Jacob, you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, I hope TCU doesn't get caught in a look-ahead weekend against Houston, because the following week they have the BYU Cougars,
Oh,
who went 21-31 last year, 7-23 in conference, and 11-15 away. So not a real major split between home and away. They were just bad no matter where they played ball. I guess the bright note for BYU is last year was the first year in their conference, and now they got their feet under them. I don't know. I'm grasping at straws here, guys.
They've got a really nice stadium, Jacob.
The view's incredible.
At least they have Trent Pratt, who's the head coach. He's going into his 5th season. He has the worst all-time winning percentage at BYU out of any coach. Yeah. They were here's a bright note. In 2017, they were the Stanford regional runner-up.
Awesome. Did they serve Cougars?
Here's how they got there.
Is that a thing?
They lost to Fullerton 13-2, but then were able to stay alive by beating Cal State University of Sacramento 6-1 before finally losing 9-1 to Stanford.
Did they lose a pop fly in the night sky?
No, they just lost.
Dust
they're not
sky.
good.
I mean, they finished second in a regional. That's pretty good.
Do you say regional runner-up? That's weird.
Last year, they were a young team. They're bringing back a lot of the same guys. Last year on offense, their batting average was almost identical to TCU's. So you can take that as I report, you decide on what that means.
That's an oof.
Just throwing that one out there, huh?
Well, now the good news, their ops was significantly higher. It's in the middle of the pack of the Big 12. So when they do hit the ball, they hit it hard, but they don't hit it very often. Yeah, they're kind of hitching their wagon to one Ryder Robinson. You may know him from his time here in Fort Worth.
Oh, that was Martin's pick to click.
It was your pick to click.
You'd be good at BYU watch.
Dude, he's going to be a good player. He would have been good at TCU. It's just, there's really just no room for him. And, we don't really know. He could have been homesick for all we know. He's just, you know what? I want to go home. You never know what's going on with these kids.
Doesn't his brother play for BYU too?
He graduated.
He did. I guess he's still on the team. But
he gone. He graduated.
But yeah, no. When you talk about BYU baseball, we got to. We're relying on Ryder Robinson to carry us.
Well, they always say it's hard to hit in that thin mountain air.
Well, they don't hit anywhere else. Oh yeah, it's easier to hit. I got it.
So on the all Big 12 preseason team, Jacob, they have Stone Cushing, relief pitcher. Know anything about him?
It didn't come up in my research.
It's a good name.
Yeah,
it's a solid baseball name.
Stand by. Maybe I overlooked him.
Never
okay. So I was going to get to. Let me finish the offense. I'll talk about the pitching. They do have third baseman Easton Jones, who hit 14 home runs last year. I guess that's where a lot of that team ops comes from. But it's basically just those two guys. They have some other guys who are, they're fine, but nobody that's worth talking about. Onto the pitching, like MK said. What was the kid's name? I didn't write him down because I'll tell you why in a minute. What's his name? Stone Cushing. Yeah. He's a decent guy, but man, after that, it's over for them on the mound. Let me run some stats by you. So their pitching staff is old and experienced, but not good after Cushing. So last year they were 11th in ERA out of the 13 teams in the league. They were 10th in strikeouts, 11th in walks, and dead last in opponent's batting average.
So what I'm hearing is Stone Cushing's going to have 47 appearances this year.
I mean, he might. A bright spot for them, their defense was 4th in the conference in fielding percentage, so there's that at least. But, man, there's not a lot of bright spots on this team. It's basically, I don't know, man. They were 7-23. I don't see them improving much on that going into this year. TCU has them at home. We didn't play them last year. I kind of wish we would have. We needed the wins. But
play them this year.
We get them at home this year. That should be a sweep. So that should be back-to-back sweeps, Houston, BYU.
Cool.
Oh man, well I'm looking at TCU's schedule and I see all sweeps right now.
I mean,
I
Dude,
concur.
why not?
well,
Hey,
we'll
I
get
have
into
a
that in a couple
question.
weeks.
Did Warren Nolan pick us for every game again this year?
Yeah, well, yeah. We'll talk about that in 2 weeks.
I have a BYU question.
Okay.
Is
I am the expert.
Cosmo is Cosmo the best mascot in the Big 12?
Super Frog's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Cosmo's
for sure.
creepy. He's too creepy.
Pistol
does-
Pete's got to be number one.
Pistol Pete has the best merch. You know,
The
'cause they
best
do all the-
rider's pretty badass.
Every,
The Yosemite Sam mascot doesn't really do it for me, but I do like the Master Rider.
But every Cosmo video I see, he's doing like a push-up onto 3 different tables that are stacked up. Where
Yeah,
he's
dude,
jumping
he's
through
cool.
fire, or he's
Yeah. The guy can dance.
Yeah, Cosmo doesn't suck, but Pistol Pete's cooler than Cosmo.
Cosmo's got good bits.
I like Super Frog hangs out with us at the games. I like Super Frog.
Well, this is not a hate on Super Frog.
No, it's not a hate on Cosmo. I just don't rank him number one. All right, Ray, next week you will unveil your Big 12 mascot rankings.
Oh man, gosh! Between work and all that I've got going on, now I got to research Texas hype teams,
Yep.
Big 12 mascots.
Any final thoughts, Jacob, on
Yeah, one last note I
Cougs.
have. They begin their season against Fresno, which is a future opponent for us. So we'll kind of get a gauge of both teams
Okay,
right there. So
in
that's
that
interesting.
series, over under 5 hit batters for Fresno State.
That's a
in that
Martin
opening
question.
Probably over.
That's pretty high for one series.
Okay,
2 and 8.
so
It's not a 4-game series, but
we
anyway,
end March and start April with back-to-back Cougs.
that's
Houston-
true.
Houston and BYU.
Oh man, dude, we're gonna have so much momentum going into April.
I-
It's gonna be
I-
crazy.
I think
Dude, we're gonna
Or
be
our
like,
season's over. Or the season's over.
no, dude, we're gonna be like 21-0,
We'll be in great shape.
possibly
Man.
24-0. I don't know how many games.
Could this be
2
the first
weekends in a
year?
row full of Cougars. We'll be feeling our oats.
Could this be the first year where post-game beers ends in the middle of the season?
No, that won't ever happen.
No, because
I'll do the show alone if I have to.
Yeah, I'll come on here and I'll just ramble for Joe
Yeah.
Rogan link
Oh.
3 hours.
We'll be going over the 2032 draft class.
You don't have to convince us, Ray. We know. Okay, moving on. Martin, last team to preview tonight, Kansas.
Oh shit, we have another team. Oh my god.
That's what I'm saying. We are
Yeah.
slow moving, fellas.
All right.
Could Kansas kill our momentum like they did last year?
No, not
Stay
again.
tuned to next week's post game beers for.
Is it home or away?
Home.
home.
Oh.
We played there last year.
Yeah, in the cold, and yeah, that didn't go well.
Yeah. All right. Save the best for last. The Kansas Jayhawks. Weird thing to say about baseball, but so last year they went 31-23. They've seen much improvement under their head coach Dan Fitzgerald. This will be his 3rd year. They are no longer the basement dweller of the Big 12. So in 2020, they were 9th out of 9. 2021, 9th out of 9. 2022, 9th out of 9. And then 2023, Fitzgerald's first year, 8th out of 9. And then last year, they were 7th out of 13.
They also eliminated us from regionals,
Yeah.
like getting into it in a regional.
They were a huge thorn in the side of the Horned Frogs in 2024. They went 3-1 against TCU and ultimately ending their season in Arlington with a 11-10 win. Eliminating.
A game that we thought didn't matter. We thought we were in.
Yep. Apparently eliminating TCU in from postseason. Right there.
And that was a
last
crazy game too.
Yeah. Last year in the Big 12, their team was 3rd highest batting average, 2nd in doubles. They had the fewest strikeouts by hitters, but they were a slow team. They had They hit into the most double plays, and they had the fewest stolen bases or attempts. The pitching was pretty good. They had the fourth lowest ERA, the second fewest walks allowed, and the fewest home runs allowed. You can kind of tell where I'm going with how Kansas is built. But some of the key losses from last year was their closer, Hunter Cranton. He was drafted by the Mariners in the 3rd round. He was that guy with the nasty slider.
Mm.
He really shut him down in Lawrence. Cody Shojinaga.
He pitched the last 2 innings of that game in Arlington in the Big 12 tournament.
Yeah, he
just ended our comeback chances.
Yeah, it was like whiff.
Yeah, he's very good.
I think it was a Saturday game up there. Yeah, he's really good. He's gone. Cody Shojinaga, he played first base and second base. He was really one of the better hitters that I saw last year. He was drafted by the Phillies in the 6th round. He was second team All Big 12. Ben Hartle, he was a first baseman and backup catcher. He's gone. He was drafted by the Rangers in the 14th round. Their Friday night starter, Reese Dutton, he graduated, and he was signed as an undrafted free agent by the Phillies.
He had to go to the train station.
Yeah, he was also a second team All Big 12. Let's see, Jake English.
I was hoping you were going to read his name off. I don't want to see that guy anymore.
Yeah, he was a first team All Big 12 catcher. He's gone. Yeah. John Nett, their leadoff hitter and center fielder, he's gone. Collier Cranford, their starting shortstop, is gone.
Dude, you're making me feel pretty good about playing Kansas now because that team kind of scared me last year. And like every name I'm looking at, I'm like, gotta hope Martin says this name. You've kind of checked them all off.
They lost a lot of good hitters, especially on the offensive side. They lost a lot of guys.
So why are they picked so highly then, Martin?
Pitching. They have it. Lenny Ashby. Lenny Ashby was the guy that.
Oh, that's a tiny boy.
I hate that guy.
He's the guy that looked like a Pringles can, the fun size Pringles can. So he was a weird. Yeah. The really short one.
I gotta Google him because I need a reminder.
He was like a really funny guy to watch. He's like 5'6", a Reuben. I think that's what you call him.
His little tiny legs.
Yeah.
Holy like shit! Yeah, I remember him now.
But he was good. That's the problem.
Yeah, dude, he's good. He is good. He's a good baseball player. But,
I remember he smoked a double off of TCU.
Yeah, dude's like 5'6", 280, and it was a treat to watch him in the outfield. In Kansas, he made some fucking nice diving play.
I'm pretty sure. I want to say he hit into a couple double plays against us, though.
Yeah. So he was a weird guy. So he started off in JUCO, and then I guess before this Diego Pavia thing, so he still had eligibility to play D2, but not D1. So he transferred to that Tampa University, and Tampa University got like a bunch of guys. Yeah, they're like a D2 powerhouse.
They are very good.
Yeah, and they got like a bunch of guys from D1, I guess, who were out of eligibility but could still play. I guess good thing we don't have to play them. And then we got Luke Lito. He was like a fourth outfielder. He played pretty well, but he transferred to Toledo, I guess, to start. And then the key returners. This is why I think Kansas baseball has shifted, because in years past you'd see guys like this transfer to like a SEC school or something. But Dominic Vogel, he was their Saturday starter as a freshman. He was the Big 12 Freshman of the Year and second team All Big 12. He had a 3.89 ERA, and he's definitely going to be their Friday night ace this year.
Now, he was also the reason why we got the comeback going in Arlington. We smoked him.
Yeah. He still pitched like 5 innings, right?
He pitched 5 innings, but he gave up 7 runs in those 5 innings.
Yeah.
He's also was picked Big 12 Pitcher of the Year
by not only Big 12 but also D1.
for
Yep.
preseason.
That dude's good. He's a guy who, when I watched him, you could tell he had good stuff, but he wasn't like crafty. He was kind of like make you beat him. And so he's leaving some stuff in the zone, and I think that's why TCU scored so much off of him in the
he didn't walk a single guy in those 5 innings, but he gave up 7 runs on 7 hits.
Yeah. The reason I feel so he's like a cold weather guy. He came from Illinois. So I think he had stuff good enough to just dominate everybody and didn't learn so much to pitch. So I think this year he's going to be a lot better. And then the other guy, Michael Brooks, their third baseman, he had 331 with an on-base 425 and a 612 slugging. He's an elite defender, and he has the offensive numbers to boot. He's like a first-team All-American type of guy. And the reason he's back actually this year, he fell in the draft boards because he got injured and he missed like the last month of the season. But he's a really good player. And then Patrick Steets, he was one of their huge JUCO signings, literally and figuratively. He's like 6'9". He had a 2.16 ERA in his first 6 starts, but he had his season cut short due to Tommy John surgery. He's going to be a guy, he might, depending on how he comes back from the injury, he might be a weekend starter. Just depends. He could also pitch out of the bullpen. A guy that they are going to be Cooper Moore. He was another freshman guy who pitched really well, but he pitched mostly out of the bullpen. So he appeared in 29 games for them last year, and he had a 4.05 ERA. He should be the number 2 guy in the rotation, and Chase Diggins, I thought it was interesting. He's one of their few returners on the infield. He's an Australian Japanese, born in Australia and moved to Japan to play high school baseball.
Wow.
Okay.
Pretty interesting. His grandpa is like Japanese. So Kansas, they are not the most prestigious baseball program in the Big 12, but I think they're changing that. I think they're going to be pretty good just based off of what Dan Fitzgerald does. I'm a huge believer in Dan Fitzgerald and their recruiting coordinator, John Coyne. They go out and find good baseball players no matter where they are. They don't rely heavily on a single recruiting hotbed. They don't recruit so much in the transfer portal as far as known commodities. They kind of go out and get the gems, and they've taken huge junior college classes. I think 3 years in a row, somebody has named them as signing the best junior college class, which I guess before this Diego Pavia thing, JUCO was kind of not a highly used resource, and Kansas uses it the most. And I think that has really turned their program around. And now they also are bringing in some pretty notable transfer portal guys. What's his name? Brady Council. He was a second baseman and an outfielder at Minnesota. He had 287 on base, 386, and slugged 520 with Minnesota. He had 11 home runs and 14 doubles last year.
I wonder if his dad is Craig Council. Is that is he the Cubs?
I think he was the Brewers manager.
Didn't he leave to go to the Cubs?
I don't know, but that is his dad. They got Manning West. He was a freshman at Oklahoma State before transferring to Walter State. He's a pretty big JUCO commit. Sawyer Smith was a D2 player at St. Cloud State, the same school that Dan Fitzgerald went to. He hit 376 with on base 424 and slugged 663 with 34 extra base hits. They're really hoping that these guys can transition into higher level and still be, successful. They're replacing a lot on offense, but the pitching is going to carry them. And I think they have really good pitching, maybe top 3 in the conference as far as the pitching staff, as far as talent goes.
Well, I'll tell you, they're going to have some momentum going into conference play because listen to this non-con schedule. A&M Corpus Christi, Tarleton State, Omaha, Milwaukee, and Minnesota before starting at home against Baylor.
That's a good team to start against.
Championship. Sounds like, based on your preview, Martin, you're a little bit higher on them than so with the Big 12 awards. Again, we don't take a lot of stock in these, but they were the bottom half of the league. D1 has a much higher, finishing 5th. I'm guessing you're siding with D1 on this.
Yeah, I could see Kansas finishing. I mean, if everything goes well and all those guys are hitting, and I guess best case scenario, I could see them finishing like 3rd or 4th in the conference. But I think they have a high floor just because of all the pitching. And that's the thing is, like, a lot of teams do not have this much pitching. So I feel like they're not going to finish. I feel like they won't finish lower than what they finished last year, 7th. I don't think they finish any lower than 7th.
Any idea when their last regional was?
Was it 1996 or something?
No, it was actually 2014. They went to Louisville. Lost that one.
Was it 92 was the last time they went to the College World Series, or 93?
93.
Martin,
That was
you didn't
before
even
the Super Regionals.
mention their best pitcher, Daniel Trumper. We got a Trumper in the baseball office.
Tell me why he's the best pitcher.
He's doing a joke.
I know.
Everyone watching on YouTube laughed at least.
And Facebook.
And
Twitter.
Okay. Sounds like
Also, hey, this is for Garrett. They have a guy, Ty Wisdom. And if you look at his bio, it says his favorite thing to do, bull riding.
What a guy.
appreciate y'all's previews tonight, fellas. Real quick, running down the I don't know. I'll start with the Big 12 awards that were kind of released today. OSU coming in at number 1, Arizona at 2, TCU at 3, and then the plethora of teams behind them. I think one notable thing is Frogs play 5 of the bottom 14 teams.
Dude.
Good for wins, bad for RPI.
Bad for fan enjoyment.
No kidding. I think
like
just
good
like
and
I know
bad.
we got to do. I know we're doing these previews, man, but I can't get excited about this schedule. Like I'm trying to talk myself into getting hyped up about Kansas now.
Well, it starts off strong because I feel like Arizona State Tech that'll be fun. Then
It's top heavy,
and then for 3 weeks, it's nothing until Kansas. I guess.
Dude,
Let's get hyped up for the Jayhawks.
And I want to ask Kirk about this, but how do you avoid a lull when you see Utah, Cincinnati, and Houston on the schedule? Like it's a month
easy.
of just point to last year.
Yeah, look what Cincinnati did to TCU just last year.
Yeah. No, I mean, for sure. I mean, after last year, we shouldn't be overlooking anybody, but I am. I'm overlooking like 80% of the schedule.
It would be a much better schedule if we played Oklahoma
State
State instead of like Houston or BYU or
West Virginia.
Or Utah.
West Virginia's all right. They went to a super regional last year.
Yeah.
I wonder. I mean, they'll never release this, but I will be curious to find out what impact this will have on like season ticket sales, attendance.
Well, I was going to say this offline because I think it might point to a negative, but they extended the deadline to renew your season tickets.
That they did.
So I don't think that's a positive sign.
No, it's not.
I mean, maybe this is a conversation for another day, but I wonder how much that goes in. Like, the fans are being asked to front NIL,
Yeah.
and season tickets. It's very expensive to be a hardcore fan these days.
Yep.
A lot of
It
truth.
is.
Absolutely.
It also is expensive when you have kids and you have to pay for a seat for them. I mean,
I wouldn't know.
Well, I know I'm saying baseball's one thing, but football, you start adding seats to that. It's not the same.
And baseball season tickets are pretty reasonable.
They're very reasonable. Yeah.
$175
They are.
for the year or something.
But they
like
probably
that.
have to keep them like that for people
Way
to
more than that.
continue.
Now you can't. You got to be 90 years old before you can get a reserve seat. But
Yeah.
that's why we're just going to keep stealing them with no remorse.
Hey, wait a second.
No,
They're free.
We've got a connection. Our guy lives in the Cayman Islands and lets us sit in his seats.
After the
Well,
third
even if he
inning.
didn't, he wouldn't be there to stop us.
We moved down after the third inning because we're wearing purple.
That's
You
right.
dang right we do. We're yelling, "Go Frogs!" all the way, man.
All right, some
Yeah.
TCU players that made the list for preseason All Big 12. Pitcher Ben Abelt. It's actually funny because they list him as RP. I'm guessing that's relief pitcher. We'll talk about
Yeah,
that.
that's lazy on their part. And
Yep.
real quick, MK, I know you want to finish the list, but D1 did not have Ben Abelt on their, whatever. And, some TCU burners were like, where's Ben Abelt? And Kendall said, what's he done as a starter? If he was a reliever still, yeah, he'd be a no-brainer.
Interesting.
Do you think? You should make. You know how On3 has? They're just got the best graphic game going right now.
Oh, yeah.
We should make one with Ben Abelt, and on the bottom it says "snubbed."
You should do that with Kendall's tweet that says, "What has he done as a starter?"
I should probably just book.
Yeah, but you have to condense it down to one word.
Yeah.
So it'd be like nothing. Pitcher Ben Abelt has done nothing as a starting pitcher.
Or just it'd be funnier if you just take off that last part of the tweet and just says, "What has Ben Abelt done?"
Yeah. Dude, yeah, we should just get in the business of misquoting Kendall. After he agreed today by email to come on the pod.
Someone start the Twitter account. Kendall misquotes.
No context, Kendall.
Yeah, no context, Kendall.
Kendall begs the LDC to come back on the pod for more coverage.
Yeah.
Someone's gonna get a
all right,
text
sorry,
message.
MK. Continue
We're
with
gonna
your
get a
list.
DM about Martin here pretty soon from Kendall.
Yeah, he's not watching tonight. He's too bored with.
I'm
Big 12.
monitoring the chat for Kendall Rogers.
Outside of Ben, the only other addition is our guy Tony Silva. Made the 4 or 5 infielders that they list on there, and then but Noah Franco was awarded Freshman of the Year, which will be a lot of fun to watch him play. Came in. We'll talk a lot more about him when we talk about starting lineups. But
dude, that's
10.
So we've been following this cadence really for this is like our third year. We'll talk about the opponents and then we'll talk about the team. I can't wait till we start talking about the team because that means the season's about to start.
Okay.
This going through the opponents just feels like fall camp for football. It's like you got to get through it, but then.
It's 2 days. It's just
it's 2. Yeah, we're in 2 days right now. So
Yeah,
shout out to everybody watching on YouTube. There's another huge number. We appreciate you guys. We got to get through these opponent previews. It's not the best content, but I swear we'll talk about TCU here in 2 weeks.
Oh, I think it's been great content.
I'm just excited to talk about the team and get the season going. That's all.
Jacob swears. All right.
Yeah. Excited.
Yeah, Jacob, excited.
Are there any guys from your teams that you think could have gotten or could win these awards at the end of the year?
Bravo,
Carson.
for sure.
Oh, you mean that are on the list now and that can stay on the list?
You're saying the teams that we previewed tonight, Martin?
Yeah.
Okay, so the teams that you previewed, guys that maybe should have made the list that weren't on the list. We didn't talk about all
I got to
of them.
pull up the list.
BYU, Stone Cushing. That's why I mentioned him. Texas Tech, we got Damian Bravo.
I mean, also
nobody for
TJ.
Houston.
Don't sleep on TJ Pompey.
Garrett mentioned Clay Climby as the newcomer of the year, but they didn't have anybody on the preseason All Big 12. That's probably more of a thing because they don't know anybody.
And also for
Yeah.
Tech, they have a Cal transfer. I didn't mention him. His name's Peyton Schulze or whatever. But the dude hit 10 home runs at Cal Berkeley. So what's that equate to Lubbock? 20? When you think about, because, man, I just don't think of West Coast, that thick air out there. Hard to hit home runs.
All right. Final thoughts before we sign off, gentlemen.
No, I was just going to shout out the YouTube viewers, but I already did that. So I'm out.
Yeah,
I'm done.
really appreciate you guys listening. Obviously on YouTube, it'll be on audio coming
I want to
soon.
shout out the Twitter viewers.
Quite a bit there. Pretty awesome. Thanks for joining us on the all platform. Grab a long drink. We've got 5 more previews. Is that right?
Yep. 5 more teams.
5 more
Yeah.
teams next week. And then just absolutely thrilled that in February we will be bringing some frog content. Can't wait for that. Ray's gonna
Head coach
jump on
Kurt
that.
Sarlos is on the books for an interview Tuesday before the season starts. What day is that? The 11th? February 11th. Kurt Sarlos live on air.
We need that picture of his interview with Jamie today where he had that big coat on and it just says booked.
Yeah, but
Dude, yeah. We got to get
Well, also,
the single verb memes going.
I actually think it's a great
Garrett, you're
idea.
on it.
I think it's a pretty good idea because they're awesome.
it's a great idea.
Yeah, just throwing a verb in the.
It's going to be the easiest memes ever because it's just a single word.
Exactly, but it's got to be like out in left field verb. It's
Well,
funny.
Well,
Yeah,
the
it's-
one I saw today was about Jaden Daniels not having a girlfriend who just said no girls.
Single.
I like the one of Desmond Howard they posted last week that said psychotic in reference to Ohio State fans' obsession with Michigan or whatever.
Okay.
We also, in the next couple of weeks, will have a bet payoff to talk about.
What?
Um,
Oh yeah, MK.
What's that?
That's
since,
right.
Maybe the Chiefs beat the Texans, so maybe a little bit of a
That's
payoff
right.
here.
Yeah, we might get our first sighting of Matthew Perk in 2025.
We'll see
So
if he's-
MK, you want to explain the behind the scene? You want to pull back the curtain on this real quick?
I think we should just
I'm-
let it hang, and then we'll
Okay,
we'll
we'll tease it.
yeah,
We'll
tease
have
it.
Perk explain it.
We'll
We'll
have
see-
Perk
we'll see if
explain
he's-
it.
We'll see if
Okay.
he's man enough to show up.
All right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sounds
All right,
good.
fellas,
All right, let's get out of here.
Thanks for coming on tonight, guys. We'll see you soon. Go Frogs.
Go Frogs.
Frogs.
Go Frogs. Man, Jacob, I cannot believe what you said off air tonight. Oh my god.
Dude, I know.